Today on Emerging Daily, I just want to share with those of you who have been hurt by the religious system and especially the Christian community. I want to apologize. You know, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community, I want to apologize. If you are someone who is not a Caucasian person, I want to apologize. If you are from some other country, I want to apologize. I do believe that light is shining, and I believe it's shining really, really bright, but that also makes the shadows a lot darker. And especially what I can't wrap my head around is how the church can support some of these things that are happening, or at least not even standing up and saying, wait a minute, this is not right. You know, when we're separating families, when we put children in cages, and you might say, oh, it's not a cage, it's just like a playpen. No, it's a cage. When we do things like that as a nation and we don't stand up and say something is wrong with us. I'm very disappointed in our religious leaders right now. We are obligated to stand up and let our voice be heard. Make our voice be heard. Not just let it be heard, make it heard. I've seen some religious leaders shy away from dealing with these things because they don't want to lose some of their followers, because they don't want to lose some of their money. But when religious leaders won't stand up and take a stand for what's going on and speak out on behalf of love, just because they're afraid people might not buy their CDs or books or whatever anymore, something's wrong.
This is Emerging Daily with Charlton Scott Fisher. Scott is the founder and leader of Emerge Nashville, a spiritual refuge that's an evolving ministry expressing radical grace every day. Emerge is supported 100% by listeners like you. To make your tax-deductible gift and to learn more about Emerge, visit emergenashville.org or email emergenashville@gmail.com. We hope this program will help you to emerge as pure gold and to stir you to put love into action.
Hey, I want to welcome you to today's edition of Emerging Daily. I'm Scott Fisher. Before we get going, I just want to tell you that we are now officially available on Apple Podcasts. So if you get those through iTunes or however you access those, we are available on Apple Podcasts. So if you go on there, if you utilize that, you can go on there and just search for Emerging Daily and it'll show up. Now, when we tested it, as far as searching for it, it was pretty close to the top when you put that in there, but it will be under the category of spirituality. We may change that later to get a larger audience, but right now that's the category that we're under. And of course, we're still, regardless, we will be talking about spirituality, but we may tweak that just a little bit to get a greater audience, to be able to share some things with more people. And also, before I forget, we're on some other platforms like Stitcher and some other things, but our main platform that we're on is Anchor. It's anchor.fm. And if you have their app, and it may just be available on the iPhone right now, I'm not sure, but I was told that you can go using their app, and if you listen to our podcast using their app, that there is a place on there where you can send us a message. It's an audible message. In other words, you can speak into your phone, I assume, and it'll send the message to us, and we can utilize that in future podcasts. So in other words, like say if you wanted us to speak about a certain topic, or if you had a question, you can utilize their app and send us that question. If you do so, please, you don't have to use your last name, but please do give us at least your first name and where you're from. We would appreciate that. And please do know that if you do submit anything through that we have permission to use this on our podcast. That doesn't necessarily mean we will use it, but that is, in essence, giving us permission to use it. And please utilize that, because we're going to begin in this season. This is our second season. Our first season of the podcast was very short because, first of all, we tried to start it in the late part of summer, and there was just so much going on. I was having to take therapy twice a week, physical therapy and voice therapy, and then having to take my mom quite frequently to the doctor. And let me just share a little bit about her situation with you. It's a praise report, I guess is one of the terms you could use. But back in the late part, I guess it was August of 2016, she fell off her porch and hit her head on the sidewalk, and it snapped her neck. And she actually laid there for, I think it was around 2 hours or so before anybody even found her. It was her back porch. And the doctor said it should have killed her. It should have, if nothing else, it should have broken her windpipe to where she wouldn't have been able to breathe. But she was paralyzed for about a month or so, completely. I mean, the only thing she could move was her eyes, and then gradually things started coming back because it broke it right at the base of her skull. It broke her neck. Her spinal cord was also damaged, and now she's up and walking. The doctor couldn't believe that she was even able to get up and walk, but especially was freaked out because she can move her arms and raise them up even over her head now. And so that's just awesome. So that's just to give you hope that, God does still do miracles. There are still miracles in our world. So getting in today we're not going to have a very long, today's not going to be very long because there's just so much going on. I mean, you can look at the news, and with as much as happening right now, it's more, it's almost like we get a month's worth of news in a day at this point. There's so much going on. But just to give you a taste of some things that we'll be talking about in the future, I just want to share with those of you who have been hurt by the religious system and especially the Christian community. I want to apologize. If you're a member of the LGBTQ community, I want to apologize. If you are someone who is not a Caucasian person, I want to apologize. If you are from some other country, I want to apologize. That's it almost makes you not want to even claim to be associated with Christianity. It makes you almost not want to be associated with the church. It almost makes you not want to be associated with this country in some aspects, because we have eroded to the place, instead of growing, we've contracted in a sense. And that's okay in one way of looking at it, because as the greater light shines, and I do believe that truth is prevailing, I do believe that light is shining, and I believe it's shining really, really bright, but that also makes the shadows a lot darker. And so, the shadows are darkest at high noon. When the sun is at its peak, the shadows are at their darkest. And they say it's darker before the dawn as well. But I believe truth is shining, but it's also making the darkness darker. It seems darker anyway. And as I said, I want to apologize for a lot that's been going on. I can't wrap my head around all of it. And especially what I can't wrap my head around is how the church can support some of these things that are happening, or at least not even standing up and saying, wait a minute, this is not right. When we're separating families, and I don't care, some people say, oh, well, Obama did it. I don't care who did it or who does it. It's wrong. Okay? And it's time we stand up and say so. It's wrong. When we put children in cages, and you might say, oh, it's not a cage, it's just like a playpen. No, it's a cage. when we do things like that as a nation and we don't stand up and say something, something is wrong with us. You know, if you've got love in you, love sometimes stands up and says, hey, no, that's not right. You know, Jesus spoke his harshest words to the religious and political leaders of his time. And some people say, oh, Jesus was not political. Oh, he was very political. The scribes, Pharisees, Sadducees, they were not only religious leaders, they were the political leaders of his day. And he had very harsh words for them. He called them vipers and snakes. So I'm very disappointed in our religious leaders right now. I'm very disappointed in a lot of them, especially. I could name them, and I may even name some names in a future episode. I'm not doing it today. I don't want to scare everybody away. I mean, I might lose some of you already, but if we believe in love, if we believe in truth, if we believe in spirit, then we are obligated to stand up and let our voice be heard. Make our voice be heard. Not just let it be heard, make it heard. And Jesus did that, and that's why they killed him. Martin Luther King Jr. did that. That's why they killed him. And for the religious, I've seen some religious leaders shy away from dealing with these things because they don't want to lose some of their followers, because they don't want to lose some of their money. And that's the very reason some of the political leaders are not standing up against what's happening, because they don't want to lose some of their funding. It's the love of money. That's what it boils down to. Why are we letting our environment get to the place that it's gotten? Because of money, because we don't want to stand up and do something about it. Because, it might cost a little bit of money. You know, we talk about coal. And the fact that some people have lost their jobs because we're not using coal like we used to. Well, tough. I'm sorry. Get over it. Find another line of work. And that might sound harsh, but we're living in some harsh times. Find another line of work. Move somewhere else where you can find another line of work if there's not another line of work where you live. But let's not destroy the planet just because somebody can have a job. There's other ways of earning a living, and our lives are not just supposed to be about spinning on the hamster wheel all our life anyway. We need to create an economical situation to where people can begin to follow their dreams, do what is in their heart to do, not just what the pocket says they need to do. But when religious leaders won't stand up and take a stand for what's going on and speak out on behalf of love, just because they're afraid people might not buy their CDs or books or whatever anymore, something's wrong. Something is wrong. I'm not worried about losing followers because I don't have any. I'm not worried about losing your money because you're not giving it to me yet. If you wanted to, that'd be awesome, because we are getting ready to begin having some teaching and worshiping times in Lebanon and in Nashville, Tennessee, just to let you know. And so we will be needing money to do, because, money does help things get accomplished. You got to pay, once you begin doing things, eventually you're going to have to pay rent, you're going to have to pay utilities, you're going to have to do this, that, and the other. And we're not even looking to buy anything or lease anything. What we're wanting to do is have some, more or less have like a mobile, team, I guess it would be called, where we can assemble at various venues in different places in Lebanon and in Nashville, so that we're not putting all of people's money into some kind of a building that's only used a couple times a week. But yeah, I'm not worried about, if you don't like what I'm saying, just turn me off. That's fine. Or don't listen. That's fine. But if you believe in love, if you believe in truth, if you believe in any of what Jesus taught, if you believe in any of what Buddha had to say, if you believe in the ultimate truths that are found in Islam, if you believe in any of the truths that are in any of the major religions, and I didn't mention Judaism because, when I mentioned the Bible, that is obviously part of it. But if you believe in any of the major religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, when people say Buddhism isn't a religion, it's a philosophy, well, whatever. But if you follow any of those things, then I think that you will begin to get something out of what we're going to be talking about. And I'm not just going to be hoarding the mic. I'm working on a list of different progressive religious leaders and leaders in the community and political and elected leaders that we're going to talk with and discuss these things. If they're willing to sit in the hot seat, I guess you could say. I'm not going to be picking on them, but we're going to be talking about some heated things and how, as people who claim to be following after God, I don't claim to be like him yet, but I believe that that's where we should be pressing toward, and that's what's in us that's working out, trying to work out through us. So, I'm gonna begin contacting these people and setting up times for us to get together, and it won't be live, as far as broadcasting it live, like a football game live, but we'll find a place where we can get together and record some episodes of our podcast together, discussing some of these things. But like I said earlier, I'm very disappointed in the religious leaders of this nation not standing up. Some of them are, but some of the most vocal, that are usually vocal, the ones that are really out there. James Robison was one of the leading evangelists back in the 80s, 70s and 80s. He had more people coming to his meetings than even Billy Graham at one point. And this man stood on a stage a couple years ago telling people that they should vote for a man who is almost the epitome of everything the opposite of love. Okay? Now, if that bothers you that I'm talking like this, like I said, we're going to deal with some things that need to be dealt with. But we've got religious leaders that have TV shows that have the spotlight on them, and because they don't want to lose their money that's coming in and lose some of their followers, and they're not willing to stand up and say, wait a minute, this is wrong, and make it heard. It's one thing for them to say it behind the scenes, but when they've got their own TV show and they've got their own radio shows and this and that and the other, but they're not utilizing those things to stand up and say, whoa, wait, this is wrong. But no, what they'll do, they'll utilize those things to condemn the LGBTQ community, or they'll use those things to condemn people that are supposedly coming over here illegally. First of all, that's a crock anyway. Who came over here illegally to begin with? This whole nation was illegally begun. The Native American Indians had it here. And then we came over here illegally. So, get over all this illegal stuff. Am I saying this everybody ought to come over here? Well, we did anyway. So get over it. What about love? How does love say, no, I've got all these great, wonderful things, but I don't want you to have a part of it unless you get in line and stand there, or not literally physically stand there, but unless you wait in line for 5 or 10 or 20 or 40 years to get over here to participate in and enjoy some of the things that I've got, how is that anything? How is love in that at all? I mean, let's get real. Either we're going to walk in love, and we're going to, or try to anyway. And sometimes that affects our pocketbook. Sometimes that affects every area of our life, and it will. That's why Jesus said it's a straight and narrow way. And if you get a chance, go back and listen to that podcast, because that's got some good truth in it. What is a straight way? Straight and narrow way. It really is not the word straight, like, the closest thing between 2 points is a straight line. No, that's not the kind of straight that it's talking about. It's straight. I believe is how it's spelled. But it's not talking about what most people say it is. So if you get a chance, go back and listen to that. I think it's like the second or third podcast. But, let's begin to walk in love. Let's begin to, and you may say, well, you're criticizing. How is that love? Well, maybe it's not, but it's at least standing up and saying, let's think about what's going on here instead of just going along for the ride. Let's stand up and say, put pause on the button for a minute, and let's really have some heart-to-heart discussions, because the direction that we've been going, our environment is wasting away. Our rights are wasting away. What's next? So these are some of the things we're going to be talking about. I do hope you'll listen. And I really would love for you to support the podcast. Even though Anchor itself is free, there is money that goes into us having to have the website, us having other things involved in the whole thing. And like I said, we're getting ready to begin doing some worship and teaching times throughout Nashville and Lebanon and points in between. So pray about it. Pray for this podcast, because we're going to, once we begin talking about these things openly, we're going to be put under a microscope, and I know it. I expect it. And, whatever skeletons are in our closet will come out. There's things that obviously I'm not hiding. I may not talk about it every day, but I have come through some things. But as I said in our episode that we aired yesterday, I'm not looking at where I'm coming from. I'm looking at where I'm going to. And I'm pressing on toward that mark. I have slipped and I have fallen. But I've gotten back up, and I'm pressing forward. I hope you are too, and I hope you'll listen tomorrow, because we'll get into this a little bit more. Tomorrow's episode will be a little bit longer. And like I said, we're going to be, not tomorrow probably, but within the next few days, we're going to begin having some episodes where I'll have a guest and we'll discuss some of these things, because it's so much easier to discuss it with another person than me just sitting here talking to this microphone. So, again, please subscribe. We're on Apple iTunes now, Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. We're on a few other places, but you can always go to emergingdaily.com to listen to any past episodes. And please tell your friends and family to listen. And God bless you. Thanks.
Do you like to shop online for either yourself or for gifts for others? Do you like the convenience of shopping online but also like to help support local shops and retailers? What if you could do both? Check out BellsGiftsAndMore.com. Bell's Gifts and More is locally owned and operated, based just outside of Nashville in Lebanon, Tennessee. They have men's and women's clothing, fashions, and accessories, wallets, handbags, watches, jewelry, books, media, home and office items, electronics, and more, all at great prices. And they add new items to their inventory almost every day. So go to BellsGiftsAndMore.com, use promo code EMERGE when you check out and get an additional 10% off your purchase, excluding sale items. That's BellsGiftsAndMore.com.
Thanks for listening today, and we hope you were stirred to put love into action. Feel free to send your questions or comments to emergenashville@gmail.com, and please consider donating on our website, emergenashville.org, or write to Emerge, P.O. Box 3242, Lebanon, Tennessee 37088.